guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Why Swiss trains are the best in Europe. So it's pretty heavily, I'm sure you can hear that. But let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe.
Video is sponsored by CuriosityStream and Nebula, which is possibly the best bundle deal in video streaming, but more about that later. I live in the Netherlands, where we have some pretty good trains. There's a dense network that connects nearly all major towns and cities.
Well, it's a small country.
The busiest train station, Utrecht Centraal, has over 1,000 train departures per day.
Okay.
And there are also high-speed trains to neighboring countries. For example, I can go to Paris in less than 3.5 hours.
Well, that's fast.
But as good as we have it here in the Netherlands, there's another country in Europe that does trains better. Much better, in fact. Welcome to the Confederatio Helvetica, or as I like to call it, Switzerland.
Common name.
Famous for mountains, holy cheese, chocolate, bendy knives, and time bracelets, and of course, trains. Lots and lots of trains. Now,
Are they famous for
I've been
it?
to Switzerland many times, and I've taken the train every time I've come because, of course I did. It's the most efficient way to get around. But recently, I stayed a full week in Switzerland and took multiple trains per day to find out what makes these trains the best trains in Europe.
They're modern.
One of the things that really sets the train system apart in Switzerland is just how extensive it is.
Okay, practicality.
Look at this map. There are train stations everywhere. There are towns, tiny towns, that have consistent, reliable train service every 30 minutes.
That's
In
incredible.
many other countries, they wouldn't even provide bus
No.
service to a place this small.
USA.
Some of the smallest towns have request stop service, where you need to press this button to have the train stop. But there's still train service.
What?
And this train station that services only a single cafe, a ski lift, and a hiking trail has service
Oh my
every
God.
30 minutes. Meanwhile, the city of Calgary in Canada, a city of 1.3 million people, has no intercity train service at all.
Yeah, it's really like...
Zurich also has about 1.3 million people, but almost
Oh.
3,000 trains per day, with train times so frequent you don't
I thought that Zurich's population was a little bit higher than this. It's quite small.
even need to look at a schedule. So if you're taking the train here, you won't have to wait very long. Frequencies like this are the gold standard of public transportation, but this is
Yeah.
really only feasible in more populated areas. So how do they provide such good train service to smaller towns and villages? Well, Switzerland is a relatively small country by land area, and some people may
Small.
assume that's why the public transit can be
Yes.
so good. But these
Not relatively.
Wikipedia-level statistics can be very misleading. Because by population, Swiss cities actually aren't that big. After Zurich, the next largest city, Geneva, has only about 600,000 people in
That's
the whole
tiny.
region. In fact, almost 50% of the entire population of Switzerland lives in small villages of less than 10,000 people.
That's no one.
In a way, Switzerland is a sprawling country, but instead of car-dependent suburban sprawl like you'd see in North America, it's village sprawl. Yet the
Oh,
country
yeah.
still manages to cover this highly dispersed population with exceptional public transport.
Great point.
Switzerland uses what is called clock face scheduling. For example, a transit vehicle that comes every 30 minutes will always come at 15 minutes and 45 minutes after the hour, or 5 minutes and 35 minutes, or maybe it's 4 times per hour at 5, 20, 35, and 50 minutes past the hour.
Okay, this is
Regardless,
confusing.
It's consistent, and it goes
Sure.
all day, so that regular users won't have to think too much about the schedule. This is actually pretty normal, and many countries
Yeah.
schedule their public transit this way, including the Netherlands and
Yeah.
Germany.
You miss your train.
But Switzerland takes this a step further by synchronizing their timetables across the entire country, a method
But-
called pulse timetabling
How
or
did they do that?
integrated timetables. Here's how it works. Train departure times at a train station are staggered so that trains may be arriving every 30 minutes at, say, 15 minutes past the hour and departing in a different direction at, say, 25 minutes past the hour. This way, most people arriving at the station will have at most 10 minutes to wait for their connecting train.
Yeah,
But
it moves fast.
Switzerland integrates these timetables throughout the entire network, across the entire country, to minimize connection durations as much as possible. Not Just Bikes viewer Jock Tur has written a great article about this that I'll link to in the description, but here's a quick summary for those of you who are allergic to reading. His analysis, done at 10 a.m. on a Friday, so outside of rush hour, shows that across the entire Swiss train network, the average wait time for a connection is 8.4 minutes, with 77% of all possible connections being 10 minutes or less.
That's so fast.
That's astonishing.
Yeah.
And it means that even a trip with multiple train connections is only marginally longer than a single direct train.
Yeah.
Another benefit of integrated timetabling is that the Swiss can squeeze the most capacity possible out of their network. Switzerland is an incredibly mountainous country, and that means that building rail lines is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So there aren't a lot of individual rail lines, and a small number of routes need to be shared by a large number of rail services. This tight scheduling is the only way a route like this could operate with only a single track through the mountains.
Okay.
For example, while traveling through the south of Switzerland, our train occasionally needed to wait briefly for another train to clear the tunnel, which was only a single track, but wait times were short and we always arrived on time.
Yeah, because everything's scheduled.
Of course, in order to pull this off, the trains need to arrive when they're supposed to arrive,
Yes.
and Swiss trains are famously punctual.
Swiss are known for their punctuality. That's why they're good at making clocks and watches.
The official statistic is that 91.9% of all trains arrive on time, but it's even better than it sounds.
That's high.
First of all, on time is defined as within 3 minutes of the scheduled arrival time. But this is a much stricter definition than you'll find in many other countries. Here in the Netherlands, for example, the national carrier, Nederlandse Spoorwegen, considers a train to be on time if it's within 5 minutes of the scheduled arrival time.
That's good.
And where I used to live in the Greater Toronto area, Go Transit uses a 15-minute metric for on-time performance
That's
for a
not so
region
good.
that is a tiny fraction the size of Switzerland, but with a similar population. And if you think that's bad, Via Rail in Canada says that 71% of their trains are on time, but they don't publish what metric they use. But anyway, what's really impressive about the Swiss train network is the connection punctuality. 98.9% of trains in Switzerland allow their passengers to make their connection.
That's 99%.
Which is amazing.
It is.
After all, arriving at home 5 minutes late one day isn't really a big deal, but
No.
just missing your connection to a train that only leaves every 30 minutes
Bad.
is much worse.
Yes.
But enough statistics and graphs. What is it actually like to take the train in Switzerland? Well, first of all, the trains are really nice. Every train I took was modern, clean, and comfortable. In the mountain regions, there are even trains with windows like this
Incredible.
to enjoy the view.
Love it.
And you definitely want to get a good view when the landscape looks like
Yes.
this. There are also tourist trains like the Glacier Express that are even better, but more about that later.
I want to go there.
But even the regular intercity trains are great. I want you to look at this scene for a moment. How freaking civilized is this? Can you seriously tell me you'd rather sit in traffic on a highway confined to your seat with a belt, constantly needing to pay attention, with no way to comfortably eat or even take a piss instead of this?
Both are
I
different.
refuse to believe that there's
Okay.
any better way to travel than on a train like this one. I was also impressed at how many trains had level boarding and direct access to wheelchair areas and accessible restrooms.
That's good.
It wasn't every car on every service, but it's clear that Switzerland is making a concerted effort to ensure that their network remains accessible to everyone.
As
And
it
every
should.
station I visited had ramps or elevators too.
That's what it should
Though,
be.
as I was filming my walk to my connecting train, I wasn't expecting to see this guy take the escalator. Damn! Individual train trips in Switzerland can be quite expensive, but for residents, it's quite common to have half-price or regional travel cards loaded onto a Swiss Pass.
How expensive is
And
it?
some people are even provided an unlimited travel card by their employer.
Oh,
For most of the week, I traveled second class, and in every case, this was more than good enough. But for the last 4 days, I bought a countrywide travel pass for first class, just to see the difference. Thank you, Patreon supporters!
how much was it?
First class is an upgrade, but it's not
Of course.
significant, and probably not worth the price unless the route you're taking is expected to be really busy.
Really?
However, some of the trains have business zones like this one that are extremely comfortable, and I was able to get a few hours of work done while in transit too. There's a famous quote by the former mayor of Bogota: "A developed country is not a place where the poor have cars, it's where the rich use public transportation," and That is absolutely the case in Switzerland. When I was traveling first class, I routinely saw well-dressed people and professionals like this who opened their laptop to debrief after a business meeting.
Okay, that makes them
I
rich.
believe that having wealthy people take public transportation is important because, for better or for worse, these people are likely to have the power and political influence to demand efficient service.
Okay, great point.
For planning your journey, the SBB app is fantastic. You choose your route and it shows you exactly how long it's going to take and where you need to change, with a list of every station in between. And it will even show you the layout of the station and the exact path between platforms.
Okay, I
Changing
love
trains
that.
doesn't get any easier than this.
Yeah.
Here is an example of a typical train trip, one of the many I took during my week in Switzerland. In any other country, I'd be worried about taking a trip with this many changes.
Yes,
But
looks
when
like
you're
a
likely to
nightmare.
catch your connection, in 99% of cases, it's not a problem at all.
Sure.
Here, I look at my first connection. The app shows me where I need to stand on the platform for my train, as well as an estimate of how busy each carriage is.
Incredible.
The app tells me exactly where I need to get off to change trains and which platform I'm going to. And I get a notification when we're getting close. Changing trains is trivial because I know exactly where I'm arriving and which platform I need to get to.
It's less stressful.
This is an older train, but it's still clean and comfortable.
Doesn't look that
My
old.
next train was running almost 3 minutes late, and the app warned me that the connection might not be possible. But of course, it was perfectly fine.
3 minutes,
And I
and
got
they
to the
warned
next
you.
train with plenty of time to spare. Even when the connection involved a transfer to a bus, it was waiting right outside, because the schedules are properly aligned even to a connecting bus service. So was all of my travel perfect in Switzerland?
Yes.
No.
Why?
I took about 24 trains while I was there, and I was unlucky enough, or lucky enough for the purpose of this video, to miss one of my connections. So
Oh my God.
what was that like?
Yeah.
Well, first, the train was late because of a delay in another country. Ooh, Switzerland throwing Italy under the bus. I mean,
Yeah.
train.
It's like, what's not
But
fault?
from what I've been told, many of the Swiss trains that are late because they're coming from another country. So this was a pretty typical experience.
Okay.
So anyway, my train was late and I missed my connection. Now, there have been many times in my life where I've been driving between cities and I end up being half an hour late or an hour late or more because
Yeah.
of unexpected car traffic.
Sure.
This is just a normal part of travel, especially
Yeah.
in places with no alternatives to driving. But being stuck in stop-and-go traffic like this sucks. It sucks a lot, and I hate it. When I missed my connection in Switzerland, I was in a tiny town of only 13,000 people. But while I waited, I was able to grab something to eat, and I stepped outside to enjoy the view.
Well, yes, that helps.
When you drive in traffic, you don't really know how long it's going to be, and it's stressful and frustrating. This delay was the exact polar opposite of that. In fact, it was a really enjoyable break. I just wonder how much better the world would be if people's travel delays were like this
I think it depends.
instead of like this. It just blows my mind that even a delayed train trip in Switzerland was better than almost any intercity driving trip I've ever done in the US or Canada. And can I just
Depends,
point out
again.
that this town of 13,000 people has regular train service, including international trains?
That's incredible.
But the best part about traveling in Switzerland was that whenever I got to my destination, no matter where it was always a short walk, tram trip, or gondola journey directly to where I
What
wanted
about
to
the
go.
Alps?
Because every Swiss city, town, and village is designed properly to be mixed use and walkable.
Yeah, that's the best part.
This was the very first time that I returned to the Netherlands after a trip abroad and didn't think to myself, oh, finally, back to civilization. It's easy to feel that
Calm
way
down.
when coming back from a trip to North America because everything is just so terrible there by comparison.
Oh my.
But returning from Switzerland was different. Everything just seemed a bit less polished. Despite getting on a recently renovated train back to Amsterdam Zuid, it still seemed kind of rickety and noisy compared to the train I left in.
Oh my God. Okay. High standards.
And I almost missed my train because I forgot to tap my OV chip card before boarding. It was only at this point that I realized I hadn't gone through a fare gate for a train the whole time I was gone, which was really, really nice. Dutch cities are pretty great, and that's an understatement. And cycling is certainly better here than anywhere in Switzerland, and
Yeah.
I talked about that in a previous video. But there's something to be said about a country that is so well set up with high quality, punctual, and efficient public transportation that makes traveling so easy. This carefree transportation felt like true freedom, more so than any car-dependent place
I
I've
agree.
ever been. Of course, one of the things they definitely don't have here in the Netherlands is mountains, so one of the highlights of my trip was taking the Glacier Express, a scenic train that takes you through some of the most beautiful
Oh my
views in
God.
the Swiss Alps.
Incredible.
I made a whole other video about what it's like to take the Glacier Express, and you can watch it now on Nebula.
That's incredible.
I'd also like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to travel first class on those sweet, sweet Swiss trains. If you'd like your name in this list of supporters and get early access to my public videos, visit patreon.com/notjustbikes.
Okay, I think I now want to take a train in Switzerland. Yes, it looks incredible. I do think like, I think like make it look like so easy. Like, oh yes, just grab the train, like it's scheduled like every, I think, like 15 minutes. 15, I think, yeah, it was like staggered. But like like everything runs on time, everything like has a schedule. So they make it look like so easy to have like proper like functioning like a functioning like train system. But I think like, again, realistically, I think like it's only possible to do this. Well, A, you need to have money, like the country needs to be very rich. And I think B, like logistically, as in like, and not just because of course it's like a mountainous area. So yes, of course, and that's why they have trains, right? Well, not always, but I think a lot of like places that have a lot of mountains, like it's just easier for, in terms of like public transportation, I think it's just easier to have trains. So yes, that's sort of like a disadvantage, but it's like, wow, that's how it's been done for since a lot, like 100 years ago, but whatever. Like you have that, which is like, that's like, oh, well, maybe it's not, you can do this in places, implement this in places where maybe like it's going to be easier because you don't have a lot of mountains. Like maybe, yes, you can argue that. But also, I think it's just because like it's small. And I know that he like argued, well, it is a relatively small country, but like still like there's a lot of people that actually live in those villages. But he's like, yeah, but I think it just depends just because of the nature of like of Switzerland, just because they don't really have like a lot of big cities. Like the biggest city has 1.5 million people. Like that's nothing. That's nothing. Especially that's the capital. Is that the capital actually, or is it Bern? Okay, I'm blanking out. Do not know. Whatever, biggest city. So it is a little bit like there's, yes, where else are we gonna put, like there's like people that live here and not everyone lives in the city. Actually, most people live in like tiny villages that have like, I think like less than 10,000 people. So you need to provide them with a solution, right? Like, yes, we don't have big cities. We have like small towns. And that's why, well, why not just, build like good train system. But again, it's not just a fact, because I think if compared to like other countries, it's like he said, it's rare for a smaller town to have like, oh yeah, the train passes. Some of them don't even have trains to begin with. Like, oh, the train doesn't really go there. You have to go there by car. Sometimes even like if the town's like a really small town. And others, like, yes, they do have like trains go there, but it's not a thing. Like maybe they go a few times a week, or maybe just like once a day, depending on like the actual, obviously there's like how many people are actually coming and going from there, because it's not actually practical. Obviously I get it, like it's annoying if you need to go there, but obviously I get from like the bigger picture, it's annoying, and they're not going to actually provide you with oh yes, this route like does this and goes to this place, like if there's only like 5 people that want to go there like every single day, or even less. There are days where like there's not even a single passenger that wants to go there or has to like get out of there. So I get like the practicality of behind this, but I get it's feasible there just because like a lot of people actually live there. That's where the density of the population is. But in other countries, like that's really not the case. It's like, no, people are sort of like in the cities, in the big cities, and the smaller towns and villages don't really get a lot of like nobody lives there, sadly, or well, not sadly, it depends, but like nobody, almost no one lives there, so why would they provide like, oh yes, we're gonna have to like do the train has to go pass through like that place? No, of course not, because they're gonna tell you it's not practical. Like there's not, it's simply, we're not gonna like spend resources and money into doing this. So I do think that it's something particular to like Switzerland, that they are able to do this just because of like how the population sort of like sprawled into this country. So it is easier. Like of course, if you're a tourist, like you're gonna be so marveled and you're gonna be, oh my god, this is incredible, because yes, I can go to all those tiny villages like very easily. But you know, if I say, oh, okay, let's do this in some other country, well, I like, it wouldn't be like this, because yes, like towns, nobody lives there, so it's like, no, why would people would gonna go there? No, like, I don't know, France, where nobody goes to, like, nobody wants to go to like the smaller towns or villages. So why would they actually like provide those resources into doing that? No, it's like, no, we have to like provide them into like the big cities, like, I don't know, Paris or whatever. So it is the thing of like, yes, you know, because you're constantly like, well, or at least I know that I was, when I was like watching the video, I was like, okay, they make it look so easy, that is like, how come no one's like, they're the only ones doing this? It's like, it is possible to have like a good, proper, like functioning like train system that it's on time, like goes everywhere. Yes, incredible. But yeah, it's not that easy. I don't think it's that feasible to like do this and replicate in other countries. So it's like, I have to give them like, okay, I understand why it's not done in other places, and not just because like, oh, you know, people are mean and the people in charge do not actually think about the other, like the smaller people and the smaller guys. Like, no, it's because of this. I think it's like a particular set of situations that make it so that this is feasible in this particular place. I do like the price. I think like I don't know. I want to know like the actual price of the pass, of like the monthly pass, the 3-day pass. Like I didn't know that apparently like employers actually give their employees like cards, like free month cards. Like that's sort of like, it's a stipend probably, like, well, not really, because they'll give you a card. It's like, okay, but how expensive is it? Because I would imagine it is incredibly expensive. Maybe not, and I know Switzerland is famous for being very, very like expensive in general, but I would love to know how much is it actually, because you know, just in comparison to probably other countries, again, it's like maybe it's not that expensive, but if you compare to other like neighboring countries, maybe that's where like, oh, it's cheap. Like the price, that's where that's when you're gonna know it is quite expensive. So I would have loved to know that. I think it's funny that they have like the first class and the second class, and he was like, oh no, well, business, not first class. And he was like, it's not really worth it. Like, I don't think like the price is actually like that. You know, obviously it's gonna be more expensive, but it isn't that worth it. But because I felt like, I don't know, the chemists look good. Like, you know, I don't know, like they didn't really look like that, like different from the others sort of like the normal like where the blips are. But I was thinking, well, I'm imagining, maybe it's just like my imagination running wild, or maybe it's like some trains in Switzerland are like this. If I imagine like, oh, it's a business class or it's a first class train ticket in Switzerland in a train, I'm imagining like, oh, the highest of the luxuries, like, you know, a great compartment, like it's beautiful, and not that it isn't pretty, but you know, this looks normal. Like it looks normal, so like clean, normal, modern. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe again, that's why I'm like, oh, my imagination is like running wild, just because I think, oh, it's gonna be like this incredible compartment, and it's gonna be like, oh, gold lacquered. I don't know. It's not like that. It's just like a business class in any, like, you know, on an airplane. Like, it is a little fancier, it's a little bit better, but it's not just like, oh my god, like you have a huge cabin all for yourself. Although I do know that there are some airplanes that have that, like depending on some airlines, you know, some business classes are better than others. But in general, so I don't know if this was because this is sort of like the normal trains, you know, just the ones that people use to get around easily, you know, for work, or maybe, yes, even like normal, but just maybe tourists as well, but not like another kind of tourist that wants to like experience the highest of luxuries. Maybe there are other trains that do that, and they're like, they look fancier. They don't look that modern. They're probably a little bit more antique or vintage looking, but probably those are the ones that go to the Alps, because I'm thinking again from like a business perspective. I would assume, yes, if you want a practicality, it's going to be something like this. And yes, we have available like a business class and stuff for executives or people that just want to do like it's easier for my work and stuff, but it's still like a work related thing, or maybe even like a particular type of for tourists that it's like, yeah, I'm willing to like spend a little more to be more comfortable, but at the end of the day, I'm just like passing through. But there are other people that I'm thinking, oh, if I want to take like a train in the Alps and like the actual train's gonna be part of my travel, of my journey, like I want to experience like the luxury. Well, those are probably other types of trains and they are available, but those are like, again, it's like another sort of like company that does this and they specialize in luxury travels like through the Alps. And like, and that's where I'm like imagining like my gold things, because this one looks like modern and nice, but not that different. I was expecting like, oh my god, you know, this incredible like train with like, I don't know, Tiffany lamps. It's like, no, it's not. It's not really like that. But I think like what he said, it was something that I'm like, I don't know if I agree, like, because it was like, this is like the best way to travel, like long distance travel, is trains, like, because he hates, you know, apparently he hates like driving on a highway. I mean, I get it. Yes, of course, nobody wants to be stuck in traffic. Like sometimes I think when you're always, if you want to get somewhere, you probably want to go get there fast, right? You don't want to be stuck in traffic because it's annoying and you have to be driving and you obviously have to be aware of like the rules of the road. Although, you know, obviously it's not, you know, you're not like, oh my god, I'm so stressed. No, it's just like you're driving normally. But yes, of course, like if there's traffic, it's gonna be annoying. But I don't really agree. Maybe I don't know. Again, it just depends, because it was like, oh, you know, I hate when like you're stuck in traffic and you have to go somewhere. Yes, but I think more. I think, at least in my case, I think more in like a commute situation. Like I have to commute into my work, and yes, you know, oh, I'm running late. There's traffic, annoying. You would hate that, right? So in that particular situation, well, yeah, of course, a train is gonna get me faster. It's gonna get me. I don't have to be like stuck in traffic for an hour. Yes, absolutely. Like you should definitely take the train to your job. But I think sometimes when you're traveling, like especially I think longer distances, yeah, of course you would choose the train just because it's faster. And again, if you're visiting a country, like you want to make the most of your time. It's like, no, I'm not gonna waste like 5 hours driving if I can be, or you know, renting a car or whatever, if I can get there in like an hour and a half or 2 hours, because then I'm gonna have like more time to explore the city. So yes, from that perspective, I understand it, and yes, of course. But sometimes I think, you know, like road trips are great, and I think again, that's why I say like it depends, because if your particular type of vacation or trip, it's more like, oh no, it's more aligned with the whole like, let's do a road trip, or you don't really care, you have like maybe a little bit more time and you don't really care about like wasting time in the car in the highway, then I think that's like a good way to travel as well. And I do really think like when you're traveling by car, I think you can experience like a lot of different things. And I'm not saying it's better than the trains. I'm just saying like I think it's just like a different way of travel, and just depends, because both things I think are great ways to actually get to know a place. So it's like, yes, I think it just depends on what you're looking for. Yes, because you know, on the train, yes, of course you have like this incredible views and it's beautiful and you're just relaxing and like, wow, this is incredible, and I don't have to like worry about anything. But with the car, not that he also, I have to say, like he was putting us as a disadvantage, because he was like in a highway, like there was a lot of concrete, there was like nothing. And I do know, obviously, a lot of when you're traveling long distances, yes, a lot of the time actually does include like highways that are just like pavement and concrete, and there's like nothing like pretty to look at. But some places are very like, they have a scenic route, so it is like, no, actually I like the landscape, I like the idea of actually driving, because there are some places that really do let themselves to this. So it's like there's really nothing that beats like, I don't know, just like driving on a beautiful highway with like, again, in some places, not the ones that he was showing, but there are some places where it is like very scenic and it's very pretty, so you don't really care and you're like, I am enjoying the view and I'm actually enjoying like driving in this particular part. Does it suck when you're stuck in traffic? Yes, but sometimes like you're not stuck in traffic and you're like, well, what a wonderful experience. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that part. I think it just depends on what kind of like trip you're taking, and maybe your personality, or maybe what you're I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of taste and what you're actually prefer. You may switch, and it's like, yeah, because I have to like get there fast because I have something to do. Well, yes, obviously take the train. But I think if you're like more relaxed and you have like more time, go and take the car. Like I think like there's beauty in it as well. So it just depends on your taste and maybe what kind of mood you're in for actually. So I think like the best way should actually have it, like the best option should be to have like both choices. Like yes, you can take the car and go into the highway, or and obviously like the other roads, or you can also take the train. So I think like ideally you should definitely be able to choose. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.